Hello and welcome to the Digital Classroom. My name is Jamie Benedict and I am here with the tools and techniques for a digital curriculum. This is not my first Facebook Live on this channel. However, it is the first one for this year and hopefully the first of many more to come as we go through this year looking at ways to improve our curriculum and trying to build up a digital instruction, especially in this unique time. So I have been a marketing teacher for 23 years. 20 years of that I have been in Orlando, Florida teaching, and I have a background in technology, and I actually got my master's degree in instructional design and technology with the idea that I wanted to really help teachers to build a digital instruction foundation, because I know that's the direction that the world is going. We are going to have technology in the classroom. There is no reason to fight this. It is just going to happen. So even before my degree, I actually was incorporating technology into my classroom in various forms anyway. So I was always trying to find ways to connect with my students and really give them those technology skills that they were going to need in real life. And sometimes I hate to admit that as much as I wanted them to learn marketing and actually love marketing and take that away from me, I think a lot of times what the students remembered most was the technology skills that they took away from me. So I taught them a little bit of research, and we talked about software and how to work within software, specifically Word and PowerPoint and Excel and things like that. Presentation skills, which I am really big on, and I always want to make sure that my students had those. That's probably one of the big ones that a lot of the students take away are those presentation skills. So it's not even just fully marketing. And of course, the simulations that can be used in the classroom, and there's a lot of those for the business environment, so they definitely are important elements to developing your curriculum when it comes to the technology. I spent a lot of time studying and applying principles that will help to improve the use of technology in the classroom. So that's what I want to spend some time talking about as we go through the course of this school year. I want to answer your questions. I want to talk about topics that are important to you. So let me know what you want to know more about, and I will definitely try to incorporate that into my Facebook Live sessions. I'm also looking to interview some teachers who have different perspectives on how this technology works and what they're doing in their classroom. So hopefully we can do that as well. Now, as far as the Facebook Lives go, especially at this point in the year, I want to make it a point to tell you that this is not going to be a political discussion. It is not going to be some sort of bashing of politicians or parents based on whether or not schools should open or reopen. I think one, it's above my pay grade, so it's not worth the discussion. But I really think what we've seen over the last 6 months or so was a lot of goodwill created in the springtime when everything collapsed and teachers adapted and tried to find ways to keep those students engaged and really were working to connect with their students and make the best of that horrible situation. And now I've seen in a lot of circumstances, and I'm sure it's not the same across the country, but I've seen in a lot of social media areas where a lot of that goodwill has now been lost with arguments through social media. And I've been a part of a couple groups that I actually dropped out of just simply because it just became too much to just follow all of this and focus on the politics of should we go back or shouldn't we go back. That is for politicians to decide, and we have to just kind of go with that as far as our jobs go and what we need to be doing. Plus, this is an exercise in futility when we argue on social media. Your personal beliefs can dictate if you choose to go back or not, but minds are not going to be changed on social media when it comes to this issue. We are not going to convince someone else, oh, by the way, you were wrong in all of this. So it's just not going to get into this argument, and I just really don't want to deal with that on this page. I do think that teachers should be political. Write to your politicians about every issue that affects education. Let them know what you think as a teacher. Let them know what you think as a parent, because a lot of teachers are parents as well. So make sure that you are active politically, but do it the right way. Go to those politicians that make the decisions, and let's get them on our side, and let's get them working for the good of education. Now, I do know the risks that are involved with going back to school. I know the statistics. Yeah, they concern me. I am choosing to go back. I'm not doing it for the money. I am not doing it for political reasons. I'm doing it because that is what I do. I teach. I want to make sure that these kids get the best marketing education possible. So that is going to be my focus going into this school year. I will not judge anyone else, though, for whatever decision they decide to make for themselves and for their family. And I will not have that be the intent of the commentary on this page. So if you comment, please respect that, and just let's make comments about improving the quality of education. The goal here is to find positive approaches to give our students the best education possible. So what is this year going to look like? And this is not going to be political, but what is this year going to look like? Obviously, it's going to be different for every single person that's teaching across the country. Every district has made different decisions on this. And I know school districts have had meetings, made decisions, called special meetings, and made different decisions on this because there's just so many variables that are put in place. So we all have different scenarios that we're going back to. Some are going back face-to-face. 100% every student should be in the classroom, and teachers are expected to be there interacting with their students. Some have gone to strictly online teaching, and their students are going to be meeting them in different platforms, whether that be Zoom or WebEx or Microsoft Teams or Google Classroom or whatever it is that their school district has decided on. And then some school districts have come up with some sort of the best of both worlds here. They've got a hybrid in all of this, and they're using a little bit of online and a little bit of face-to-face and trying to make the best of it. My school district down here in Orlando is serving right now as a hybrid with a start in digital only. So the first 9 days that we have students are going to be 100% online. And so we've kind of built curriculum or built our courses out knowing that the first 9 days are not face-to-face. And then after the first 9 days, we switch to a hybrid of it. Now, looking at my numbers, I have about half of my students actually in the classroom with me, and another half will be watching virtually as I'm teaching my lessons. And that is posing the most unique challenge I think that we've seen in education in a long, long time. How do you teach to half of your students in the classroom and half of them at home online? And it is going to be fun to find out. I am really excited about the idea of balancing this hybrid model and trying to connect with students in both realms. And so I've spent some time over the summer, knowing that this is a possibility, trying to figure out, okay, how am I going to make this work? How do we engage students? How do we build those relationships? How do we connect with these students when they're not all there with us? And honestly, how do you connect with them? When we went to online back in the spring, I had already built relationships with these kids. So when they checked in online, we picked up, as far as my classes were concerned anyway, we picked up with business as usual. The students came in, they knew how to interact, they knew what was expected, they knew where to find some of the resources. They knew all of this because that's just how we had interacted. Now we're going to be starting the year with students we've not seen before. I don't know their names, I don't know their faces, and I'm going to try to learn them in those first 9 days. And then when we get into the classroom, I got to figure out, okay, which ones are coming in again and which ones aren't. And so I have to be looking at how can I connect with these students right off the bat? Let me get them on the same page as me and really try to engage them in these early days of the school year. And who knows, we may end up back out of school at some point, or some states might, or some districts might. And those relationships are going to come in handy when it comes time to switch. So I'm going to refer to a book in here. If you're a new teacher, you've probably been pushed towards this book. I know that I was as a new teacher, and I know school districts have used this for a long time. But a guy named Harry Wong wrote a book called The First Days of School, where he basically is getting into the importance of these initial interactions with students. What are they seeing? What are they feeling? What do they hear? How do they come into your room? And what's the setting like in those moments? Now, I have always hated the first day of school when it comes to doing the syllabus, going over the rules, going over the expectations. Here's the grading scale. Here's what we're going to do. Because what ends up happening is I spend 52 minutes talking and they stare at me blankly. And the worst part about it is that they're doing that 6 or 7 times a day. If you are their 7th period teacher, man, they have had enough of that already. They are out of it. You know, I would expect probably by 3rd period, they are out of it. That first day, trying to connect with students and throwing a bunch of rules at them and throwing the expectations at them, it's almost lost on them because they just get so much of it, you know? And honestly, in 23 years of teaching, I have never had one kid come into my room and just blatantly do things that they know would violate classroom expectations. They don't come in using foul language. They don't come in with inappropriate attire for the most part. I don't think I've ever seen it. You know, they don't come in and start talking back to a teacher. They're just as nervous as we are on the first day. They're trying to feel things out. They're not going to come in and blatantly do that. So to sit them there and lose those precious moments on that first day and miss out on connecting with these kids is, to me, a huge disservice to what we do. So I had a mentor 23 years ago when I first started teaching. I taught in Brown Deer, Wisconsin. Very small school, very small town in the Milwaukee area. And he taught me as a marketing teacher that the first day was the most important. And he had this interactive activity that he did with students on the very first day. And so I sat in and watched him do this because I was curious. And he called it the flying disc. It was a Frisbee marketing lesson. And he started throwing the Frisbee around the room. And he gets kids engaging because they have to catch the Frisbee. They're talking to him. He's asking them questions about the Frisbee or the flying disc. And he's going through this whole marketing lesson, introducing a bunch of concepts that we're going to talk about in marketing. And he's doing it in a way that every student's now like, oh, I better be paying attention here because I don't want to be the one who drops the Frisbee. So he did this and showed that, hey, look, this is what you need to do. And the smiles on their faces said it all as they were going through, because I'm sure that every other class that day was probably going through rules and expectations and grading scale and the curriculum. And he's throwing a Frisbee around in the classroom. I bet that I have done that activity 20 times over the course of my career on the first day. And it's just one of those things that I think just sets the tone for the entire year. Not every kid loves it. I understand that, but it's something that can get all of those kids engaged. Like, what in the world is this guy doing throwing this flying disc around in here? Why is he calling it a flying disc instead of a Frisbee? You know, so it was fun to do that. Now, here we are in 2020, the pandemic is all around us. Schools are trying to open online, and we've got to decide, are we going in this online setting, this brand new, unique idea for the first day of school? Are we going to go over rules, or are we going to do something that engages these students? So I've developed this activity over the years. I'm happy to share it with you. If you want a copy of this, just send me a message and I will gladly email it to you. But I call it the grid. And I usually do this in small groups with students. And this year, obviously, it's going to be a little bit different, but I think I'm going to like it better this way. And I'm pretty excited to try it out. So I created a list of questions and I put the kids in small groups and I give them a grid paper where I want them to answer the questions. So they're talking within their small group and they're getting to know kids that they might not know in the classroom, because I divide them up and I make sure that they are with kids that they probably have never talked to before in their high school career. So I ask them questions, though, that I think are somewhat fun and, you know, a little bit lighthearted, but at the same time, I think when I look at the answers, I can find out a lot about these particular kids. So I might ask them something as ridiculous as this to get started. Following standard genie rules, which means you can't wish for other wishes and you can't wish for love. You have one remaining wish from your 3. What is it? And watching the kids try to figure out, okay, man, what would my last wish be? You know, that's always fun. And it says a lot about these kids as to what they would pick when they answer that question. This is one I think I love with kids because it really makes them think, what do I do in this world? What am I bringing? But I always ask the question, the nicest thing I have ever done for someone else is what? And sometimes you can see them smile because they're like, oh my gosh, I remember when I did that. And it's such a great feeling. But they've let their guard down at this point. They have basically opened themselves up. And I try to do it in a way that is just a little bit more, I think it's something that they can appreciate, you know. And I always try to do this with them as well. If you are going to ask them questions, you better be prepared to answer them also. And so this is what I'm looking forward to with the grid here in an online forum. And that is that at the same time I'm asking these kids these lighthearted questions, I can also teach them about the online platform. So I might ask a question and then tell them all, okay, I want you guys to open your chat. And I want you to, for this question, I want you to type all your answers in the chat. That means every student can see what's going on and I can keep track of all that. Of course, I can download that in most of those online platforms and I can see what the kids are answering. And then I might tell the kids, okay, for this question, I want you to type in the chat, but I am going to call on a couple of people to share their answers with me. And I want you to turn your microphone on and actually talk to the class. And I might do that for every question. I might pick 2 or 3 kids and say, hey, why don't you tell us? And then I've got them learning how to turn your microphone on for responding to a teacher. And then I might say, okay, here's what I want you to do. And some of these have emojis that you can connect to other people in the chat. I want you to look through a couple of those answers and I want you to give somebody a positive emoji based on their particular answer just because you think you connect to it or whatever. And they might give them a thumbs up or they might give them a smile or a hug, you know, a hug emoji or a heart emoji or whatever else it is. And then I'm going to tell them, all right, if you want to respond to this, raise your hand. And I make them use that little button that raises your hand for you in the chat room there or in the platform. So I really like the idea that there's so much that you can teach the kids without actually teaching them. That first day of getting them comfortable with the interface of whatever digital device you are going to be using and getting them to understand it and feel comfortable with it, I think is incredibly valuable. But at the same time, you are going to have to keep things moving, keep them engaged, and keep them having fun so that they're making that relationship with you right off the bat. And so this is one I always ask because I think it's one that every kid can answer. Some of them they try to get out of. I always try to force them to answer it. But might ask them like favorite guilty pleasure song, food, or movie. And so then they'll ask me, well, Mr. Benedict, what's your favorite guilty pleasure song, food, and movie? And so that's where I share with them. And this is how the relationships get built, is when you tell them those personal things about you, and they either will laugh at you because they find it fun, or they agree with you, or they're like, oh man, this guy's really out there, man. He's like, so my favorite guilty pleasure song, I'm going to share with you guys today. We're going to play the game. My favorite guilty pleasure song, and the kids still cringe at this, which means I guess it's still relevant enough to work as a guilty pleasure song. But at the same time, you know, it's probably getting to the point where I need to start changing it up. But my favorite guilty pleasure song is The Climb by Miley Cyrus. I find myself singing along to that song every time it comes on. I love it. I know Miley's kind of out of the spotlight now, but kids still know her and they know the song and they know that it's a little bit weird. And so I always tell them that's my favorite guilty pleasure song. My guilty pleasure food isn't really anything, but they pay attention to it to the point that when it comes time for like Teacher Appreciation Week or Christmas or whatever else, I get boxes of it. My favorite guilty pleasure food is hot tamales, the candy. And these kids are always bringing them to me. And so I don't do it intentionally for that. It's just one of those things that happens. My other guilty pleasure is Starbucks hot chocolate. I don't usually buy very many for myself, but the kids will bring me Starbucks gift cards because they remembered, on the first day he said his guilty pleasure food is Starbucks hot chocolate. I don't do it for that reason. The kids just remember that and they go, oh yeah, that's what we should get Mr. Benedict for Christmas, or that's what we should get him for Teacher Appreciation Week. And then of course, my guilty pleasure movie is Sleepless in Seattle. And that was one that my wife and I, back when we were dating, we watched, and it's just a wonderful movie. And of course, it's a romantic comedy. So I tell them that, and then over the course of the year, when I'm a little bit harsher with them, they try to figure out, okay, how's this guy's favorite movie a romantic comedy? And man, he's kind of mean sometimes. So it's fun to play along with that. But that's where the relationships come in. That's where they're built. And I think that's a fun way to get started. Again, of course, if you're getting started with the school year, if you send me a message, I will gladly send you a copy of my questions that I ask. And I've got 2 sets of them because I get kids for 4 years. So I try to push them along with different questions all the time. So if you want those, I'm happy to send them to you. You can always look them up. They're just icebreaker type questions. And I figure usually I can get through 8 to 10 in a class period. With the digital, I'm going to get as far as I can. And I might make one an opener one day, and I might just do it in the first 10 minutes of class. Hey guys, we got another grid question for you, and here's what we're going to get started with, and just let them go to town with that. And then of course we bring them back, and we've built that relationship. Relationships now more than ever are going to be important because of that distance learning. And I promise you are going to get a lot more out of building that relationship than you will out of going over rules for 45 minutes or however long your class period happens to be. These kids do not want to sit in front of their computer for 6 or 7 periods a day and go through this any more than you do. I don't want to do that for 7 periods on my first day. I don't want to make that the first impression that they have of me while we're going online. This is too important. It is way too valuable. I want these kids to have a reason to want to show up to my class every day and show up online. So that's what you're going to do in those first 50 minutes that you have with your students, is you are going to make that connection. Now, I tried to keep this one really light because it is the first Facebook Live of the year, and it is not something I wanted to really dig deep into. Plus, I want to actually do things based off of what your concerns are. I want to build this channel around helping you create a digital curriculum and helping you to connect with students and engage those students using technology on a regular basis. So thank you guys for joining me tonight in the digital classroom. I will be going live throughout the school year to discuss important topics regarding technology and education. If there are any topics that you want to know more about, send me a message and let me know, and I will get that part built up for you so that we can talk about that at another time. Don't forget to like and follow my Facebook page and subscribe to my YouTube channel at The Digital Classroom. I am Jamie Benedict, and until next time, class is dismissed.